donated approximately $126,000 from a committee to the Republican committee, and we've returned that money. Any funds that he gave us, we've returned to his committee. The committee that donated to us, we gave back to them.
Joe, when did the Nassau County GOP really start to at least suspect or could figure out that much of his resume was untrue or flat out lie? Was it before or after George Santos?
No, before the election. Again, we trusted him. I take responsibility for that on behalf of the committee. We trusted him. We vetted him. He was a Queens Republican, recommended to us. He answered questions. When you ask a would-be candidate questions, you expect that he's going to be honest. He gave us a resume in writing with his credentials, with his educational background, where he lived, his business background, et cetera. There was no reason to, I don't believe there was any reason to question it. After the campaign, when this came to light, obviously, we looked at it. I believe in giving everyone the benefit of a doubt. We spoke to him once, as I just said to Rich, and he assured me that there were mistakes and he would clear it up. And of course, that was the last time we spoke to him.
You don't think he's cleared it up at all, really?
Obviously not. No, obviously not. He continues, unfortunately, he continues to lie, and we can't have someone like that. We can't have someone like that serving in Congress, representing the people in Nassau. And as importantly, as I said on or about December 30th, he will not have the endorsement of this committee should he choose to seek election in 2024, if he's still in office, or if he's removed and decides to run again.
Can you just explain how you're going to change that vetting process going forward? Like, how are you going to?
Yeah, we're going to do more of an investigation. I didn't think we had to, that we had to play that role, but I assume now that, or I know now that we do. And so in the past, where we had people answer questions and submit a resume. And you see, the unfortunate thing is, if people come from Nassau County, we know them, perhaps they've served in other office, or we know their neighbors, we know people who know them, family connections, et cetera. With George Santos, he came from Queens. And quite candidly, to speak to you very honestly, in 2020, the Democrats had a strong district, they had a strong incumbent, and people were not knocking down the door to run. And so when he was recommended to us, we vetted him, we thought, significantly at that time, or sufficiently, and unfortunately it turned out not to be that way.
Were there any red flags raised early on, like when he donated $700,000 from his, personal account, anything like that?
Now, see, what happens is this: campaign committees are run in a certain way. We have Republican committees here, finance committees. When you get on the federal level, it's very different. We are very limited in what we can do. We don't monitor the campaign committees, neither of Anthony or Garbarino, who runs in part of Nassau, or Santos. So that all came to light afterwards. I was unaware that he had donated, contributed, or loaned, or whatever terminology is appropriate.
What would you like to see House Republican leadership do? They've been very silent on this.
Well, we've called upon them. We've called upon him today to resign, and I would hope that they would support us. We're talking about the people in Nassau County. We're not talking about the 435 members or thereabouts that come from throughout the country to Washington. We're talking about the people in Nassau County. They deserve better. All of the elected officials feel this way, and so we're calling upon him to resign today.
And you've talked about waiting, Michael Gold from the Times, you've talked about waiting after our first story to get an explanation. County executive also talked about feeling like this was kind of a slow build, but I'm wondering if there was a clear turning point for you in this. From my end, we watched your responses evolve and shift over the last few weeks. What brought you here? What was the thing that finally...
I think it's a combination of everything. I think it's a combination of listening to people in the community. I think of reading the various media outlets. I think some of the things, you exaggerate. Someone says, I graduated with honors when I didn't. I mean, he didn't go to Baruch, His grandparents were not Holocaust victims. He lied about, he had said that he owned a place in Whitestone he was selling. He had told me he was looking, after the election, he was looking for a place in Brookville, that he had made an offer on a home. Now I see he's being evicted from an apartment. Just lie after lie after lie. It became a pattern. And I think when we saw that pattern develop, though giving him the benefit of the doubt, and as Bruce said, giving him time to explain, he didn't do it. And it's obvious now that it's all a bunch of lies and fabrications.
Hey, Joe, is there any legal maneuvers that the Nassau County GOP or any officials out here can do to force him out of office or at least pressure him to resign?
We've called upon his resignation. I think that while there are ongoing investigations by federal and local authorities, we have not been contacted in that regard, I think that we should let that play out.
Before the story broke, what were your impressions of him?
He came from outside the county. We didn't know him. He was very energetic, ready to run. This is in 2020 in a very tough district. He ran a fairly good campaign. After the campaign, he blamed us, perhaps specifically me, for not supporting him well enough in 2020. He thought he won. The election night results were such that he was ahead. Looking at the absentee ballots and seeing, don't forget, then he ran in Suffolk, Nassau, and Queens in 2020. So when I looked at the absentee ballots, I knew he wasn't going to win. He went to Washington for orientation, stayed a few days, and left. He then, as might be expected, was upset, disappointed, perhaps even an angry young man. He blamed the Nassau County Republican Committee for not supporting him sufficiently. A few weeks went by, maybe it was December of 2020, he called, said he'd like to come in. He came in, there were a group of us there, he apologized, said he was sorry, he made a mistake perhaps in his youth. He was very excited when he understood that he was not elected. He reacted accordingly. He apologized, he asked for a second chance. I told him he'd have to earn that chance. 2021 came, and then the election, and again, the districts were changed. At that time, the district was very strong Democrat. It went from no longer Suffolk, but across northern Nassau through Queens, over the bridge or under the water through the Bronx to Mamaroneck. People were not, no elected officials were coming forward. We carried petitions. He was our candidate, designated our candidate, and then an action was brought by Republicans. The Court of Appeals upheld the lower court. The special master and the judge upstate became involved, and all of a sudden the district went from being a very difficult district to a winnable district. The Bronx and Mamaroneck were gone, replaced by Levittown and Massapequa. He was already our candidate. He ran. We supported him. He won. And unfortunately, this occurred. So he was not someone that we knew. He was not someone who grew up in Nassau or in Nassau politics, hadn't served in the assembly or a council person as many people have. Garbarino in Suffolk, who represents part of Nassau, Anthony, having served as a councilman. We trusted him, and shame on us for doing that.
Have you heard from donors? How was he able, nobody seemed to ask that question.
I think that the donors that I know that contributed to him, and I don't know many of them, someone asked me last week, one of the media, about some donor, and I never heard of the gentleman. They said he had some connections overseas. I think the people that I know, they just believed. They believed in the Republican Party. They do believe in Republican principles and philosophy, and they supported him as they might have supported any other Republican in that district, especially when they saw that the odds were changed, and it was no longer a district cut for Mario Biaggi's granddaughter from the Bronx, but rather now it was a competitive district where we could win. So I think whomever the candidate might have been on the Republican ticket, with the issues and with the wave perhaps that we anticipated, I think they jumped on board for that reason.
Joe, it's not common for the Nassau Republican Party to back a candidate that you don't know, who hasn't served in county, town,
Right.
village government, etc. Who made the recommendation to you?
It came from Queens County at the time, the Queens County Republicans, not enthusiastically, but again, if you recall back in 2020, the Democrat incumbent was strong. It was a Democrat district, so again, people weren't knocking down our doors. There were a few people who expressed interest, but no one who we felt had the credentials to win the district.
Joe, I think you said before that he came to you with a resume, that there was some sort of background information that you received from him about
Right.
his career. Could you just explain what was on that resume?
Well, to my recollection, it said he went to Baruch College, said he went to NYU. He later, or perhaps at the interview, I didn't attend it, that he sought a master's degree, said that he worked in finance. I don't recall, was it Citigroup, I think. Said he was very successful, told me personally that he had made a lot of money at that age and was successful in life. We got into it, started getting personal about the fact that he came from a poor background, but that he was able to be very successful. Told me, I remember specifically, I'm into sports a little bit, that he was a star on the Baruch volleyball team and that they won the league championship. And what can I tell you?
Mr. Cairo,
Yeah.
how angry are you that you impeached pretty much everyone, and how do you characterize this entire situation? Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I've never seen it, and I hope never to see it again. I'm disappointed, and we learn from our experience, and our vetting process has to be much more, has to go much deeper. You know, we have to really investigate backgrounds now. It's sad, but it's true, and I think that holds true for both parties. And I'm not commenting on the other party, and I have the utmost respect for their leadership and for Jay, but I think that it's interesting too, that we ran a campaign and he won, and these issues didn't come up, you know, by his opponents. And I hold them in very high regard. I have a very, on a personal basis, not politically, I respect Robert Zimmerman, I respect Jay, and what can I tell you? It's a sad moment.
Congressman Santos has said for a few days now that he would address this world questions to the media. He's told reporters on the Hill basically every time they run into him that he's going to make a statement at some point. Is there anything he could say to get you to rethink this today, or are you
No.
firmly committed?
No, listen, never say never, but we're pretty close to never.
And you had mentioned earlier that you will be working with him as far as his constituents goes. You're going to be directing them to Diaz-Pazito's office. Is that feasible? I mean, it seems like many people with questions or concerns probably
No.
won't be calling his office.
It's absolute, Bruce wants to come, but it's absolutely feasible. Andrew Garbarino also represents a small portion in Nassau, but we had many years. You know, the last time we swept was in 1994. So we had many years where we didn't have a Republican, you know, representative of a major part of Nassau County. Peter King, of course, for 28 years. So it is workable. Bruce?
Yeah, so let's go through the federal issues. So there are environmental issues that we would normally discuss with the member of Congress. We would discuss it with Majority Leader Schumer, Senator Gillibrand. Whether it's a personal issue like a passport or an immigration issue, we would bring that up to the attention of the member of Congress. In this case, I think it's very workable, and I'm very happy that Congressman Diaz-Pazito has agreed to help us in Nassau County to funnel those types of requests to his office. And I will be speaking with Anthony Diaz-Pazito and Andrew Garbarino if it's a House matter. And if it's a Senate matter, I communicate with the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. Even though he's in the other party, he's been very responsive to Nassau County residents. And we will work out a system whereby the residents of the 3rd Congressional District will make sure that they get taken care of. But I just can't see any way that I or my colleagues can deal with someone who is, you know, appearing to be a pathological liar.
Yeah, let me just clarify one thing. There are certain House rules, and those House rules we will strictly adhere to. And so there are issues that must go to the congressperson within the district, and our alternative would be to go to our United States senators. And many of the issues, for those of you who have been around and perhaps served in government, many times people will call, and they'll call a local office like the town of Hempstead, and it's a state senate or assembly issue, et cetera. So we'll work with all our elected officials. You know, I always say that, my attitude is that when we're on the field, we try to knock down the opponent and get into the end zone and score, and they do the same to us. As long as we play by the rules, when the game is over, we congratulate the winner, whether it be Republican or Democrat, and we work together until we're on the field again during the next campaign. So we will work with all our elected officials, and I think County Executive Blakeman will certainly spearhead that. But we will follow all House rules. So when there are House rules that exist, we'll certainly follow all of them. Any other questions? Thank you very much.